on this cold day because we recognize three very basic truths. First, that biology is real, it is immutable, it is not subject to the whims of any individual or government or medical organization. Men are men, women are women. That's all there is to it. You cannot change a person's biological identity, you cannot change their sex, and you should not try. Second, that the most essential and fundamental duty of any society is to protect their children. A country that cannot or will not protect its children is a country that deserves to die and will. Children are innocent and helpless. They know very little about themselves, very little about the world around them. They rely on us for clarity and guidance and protection. They trust us, the adults, implicitly. So when they're confused and scared, they look to us to be the ones who light the way and lead them down the right and safe path. It is our moral obligation to be the source of wisdom and security that they need and that they deserve. If we will not fulfill that obligation, then we are worse than useless. The third truth is this, that gender ideology, the radical leftist doctrine that claims that girls can be boys and boys can be girls, and that such a impossible transition can be made possible through irreversible drugs and surgery. Gender ideology is deeply sinister. It is a unique threat to children in particular. It is one of the greatest and most incomprehensible evils ever visited upon children in the whole history of the human race.
Preach it, Matt Walsh. Hey, guys. How you doing? Welcome to the Rescue Mission Weekly Live Stream. We got a lot to talk about tonight. That was a scene from the U.S. Supreme Court this past week, where they just took up a case in Tennessee. The radical left is challenging a Tennessee law prohibiting transgender surgeries and puberty blockers for minors, and the Supreme Court's taken it up. The news reaction to this is encouraging, let's say. This is one such story. The editorialization of the titles is amazing. You can just, if you don't know to hate the mass media to begin with, this is how they describe mutilating children. A ban on gender-affirming care for kids.
Yeah, gender-affirming.
Yeah, gender-affirming to, chop off their genitals and put them on give them the drugs they used to castrate, convicted pedophiles with. 24 states have passed laws similar to Tennessee's, which prohibit puberty blockers or hormone therapy for those under the age of 18. Yeah, that is not health care for transgender youth. That is called mangling children. And but fortunately, the article appears to say that, and there's been some people that have gone into more depth. You can actually listen to the hearing of the entire case. It's obviously all floating around the internet, but yeah, this is the media's reaction based on the line of questioning from the judges, the justices, as they like to call themselves, and yeah, we'll see what happens. But here in Michigan, the Democrats have apparently not read the room, even though they got drubbed in the election. They are going to be passing legislation that is going to be even more radical than the things they passed before the election. And I think we talked about this last week. Chat, help us out, because me and Pat were talking before the show. I don't know if we can fully remember. I thought we covered this bill on last Sunday's stream, House Bill 6034, which is to make it almost impossible to remove radical transgender obscene books from public libraries. I thought we looked at it, but maybe we hadn't. I don't know. Let me bring this up. This is the bill. And remember last week, I naively said, actually, the calendar is kind of light this week. Well, yes, the calendar was light this week in terms of what bills they were getting through the floor, but that does not mean that they're not moving at a breakneck pace. In fact, they are still introducing brand new bills. And this one got a hearing in the Government Operations Committee last week, which is another sneaky move. Jay says, I don't remember that topic from last week. Okay, well, let me pull this up on the screen. We were, if we did, it was going to be at the very end, where we were kind of just talking about some bills here. This is House Bill 6034, which they call the Public Library Freedom to Read Act. That's right. It's a brand new bill because there's nothing it could be amended to, because it's an entirely new topic, protecting pornography in public libraries. So it's a bill to create standards and processes for the selection of materials for inclusion or withdrawal from the collections of certain public libraries, and blah, blah, blah. And what it basically says is that it's almost impossible to ban books from public libraries. In fact, they even have, for example, let me show you some of the conditions they have here. The director of a library, or if there's no director, the chief executive employee has final responsibility for the selection of materials. They may designate another individual to act on or behalf of the selection. And then somewhere in here, it actually says, here's the conditions that must be met before the public library will even review a request for reconsideration of a book to be in the library. They have to first off say that they have read the entire material from front to back. So, you'll have to actually read genderqueer and have to actually see the graphic, which, the thing that's so scary about this stuff is we can't show this on the stream because we'd get banned by YouTube because it's child pornography. It's graphic depictions of child sex. Even talking about this frightens me. But no, they want to make sure that you commit a federal felony consuming child pornography before you are allowed to request that the child pornography be removed from the library. But that's not enough. There's more. They also only allow one request to be made once a year. And it may not actually have anything to do with the viewpoints of sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, which besides obviously covering radical transgender ideology, might actually mean depictions of sex. Also, you may not submit anything for reconsideration unless it has actually been determined by a court to be obscene. So until you get a judge's order saying this is illegal, you cannot even request it for consideration. And in fact, the Attorney General may also sue the library if they have removed anything that does not actually.
Oh gosh.
This category. So this is a bill that they introduced. When did they introduce this bill? Is the date on the top of this bill? November 7th, 2024. Look at that. 2 days after the election. 2 days after the election, they introduced these bills. They've already gotten a hearing.
Oh, Pahutsky. There she is. Yeah.
Yep, they've already gotten a hearing. You can actually watch the hearing. It's in the House Video Archives. Go to the Government Operations Committee if you want. You can gag as you watch. For one thing, the director of the Oxford Public Library, shout outs to Oxford, Michigan, used to be part of the district I worked for the representative of, where their library director, who lives in Lapeer, by the way, he actually said he got his passion for libraries at the Marguerite D'Angeli Memorial Library in Lapeer. Isn't that sweet, folks? My great-grandmother's library. That's what it's named for, is my great-grandmother. She was born in Lapeer, famous children's author and illustrator. They distribute child pornography at her library, too, by the way. There's been some action in Lapeer over that the past year. Anyway, this director who lives in Lapeer, but he's the director of Oxford Public Library. You can see him testifying at the Government Operations Committee how sad he was that a library official, she was forced into early retirement because she was so upset with having to deal with angry parents that were just angry because they didn't allow radical transgender graphic depictions of child sexual abuse in their library. Allegan News says, let the local library select what they can have. We can fight with our local library. Going by this law, my library should have all the books in the world. Yeah, there is a limitation as to what libraries can have on their shelves. But of course, the radical activists are putting these books in their shelves. Mark Ashley Price says, I hope the GOP knows that it's a difference between being supportive of the LGBT plus community and what the left is saying. The GOP is always 2 years behind on this, but we'll see. I think they're coming around eventually. They're always the very last. But there is a reason, guys. There's a reason why the Democrats waited until after the election to introduce this bill, because they know how unpopular it is. So, these people and some of them.
How many days do they have left in session?
Well, according to the calendar, their last day is the middle of the week after next. So their last official day is the 18th. But don't put it past them to rewrite the calendar at the last minute. I wouldn't put it past them to adjourn at 4 o'clock in the morning on January 1st. I mean, really,
yeah.
There is nothing stopping them other than, decency. Stephen Gothal says, lame duck is going to be disastrous. I wish no actions could take place. or it can be versus the simple majority after lame duck. Well, it can't. It can't. Now, what Republicans maybe should do, and by the way, an email blast about this particular bill is going out from us tomorrow morning, but there's going to be more. There's going to be more. In fact, I just got a heads up from someone in Lansing with a list of some of the bills the Democrats intend to pass this week. Guys, are you ready? The national popular vote, driver's licenses for illegal aliens, putting non-gender X on birth certificates, driver's licenses, and IDs, 4431 to legalize sodomy. There's some bills to let criminals out early, release 20-year felons early, Hollywood film subsidies. This text says mandatory park pass. I assume that means the opt-out is no longer an opt-in, it's an opt-out, or they just force you to by the state parks as a condition of getting your license. Double marriage license fee, 40 there's a typo there, but 6 additional weeks mandatory severance in the Unemployment Insurance Act. Additional fees for selling nicotine products, also banning flavored vape products. Yeah, so just a few things they plan to do this week, guys. That's coming this week. So we'll probably have more petitions maybe for each day this week, but I think probably the overarching one is Republicans should really just stay home. Because if you're not in Lansing, then you're automatically a no vote. They have to get to 50, they have to get to a majority of members elected and serving. There's absolutely no reason for Republicans to even come to Lansing because they're not going to do anything whatsoever except for passing evil bills every single day.
Did you see the one I sent in the text about increasing the driver's license fees and then like billing people $100 ahead of time per registrant or something?
Yeah. There's a new one. Let me pull it up here. Hold on. Let me bring this back up on the screen.
And then there's the toll roads.
Yeah, 6257, I believe it was. Let's see what we have here. Is this the one? Yeah, increasing vehicle registration. I like how even the description. Increasing vehicle registration fees. So there you go. And they're going to increase the fees. Let's find that here. Where have we?
Hunting and fishing licenses. I mean, I saw a bunch of other ones, and I don't know when those go to vote or what's the plan, but
yeah, here we go. This is the operative language in this bill. Additional $100 a year per vehicle. So there you go. Another vehicle registration fee as well. They're going after, Allegan News says they're going after toll roads too. Yep. Telling you that. Also says if we had national popular vote, Trump would have won by over 500 electors. I mean, that's a fun fact, and it's true that would annoy the crap out of Democrats, but Democrat lawmakers recognize that, yeah, but Trump still won either way. It's the same difference. Their thinking is, and their thinking will continue to be, it might be closer next time, and the national popular vote might still be a way for the Democrat candidate in 4 years to beat the Republican. That might be more likely, they would say. Because the nice thing about the national popular vote is it also means that every state is now going to be accepting the illegal votes from Democrat states that have no safeguards against election fraud. John C. King says, not showing up might look bad from a PR perspective. I don't think so. I think, and this is, again, where Republicans need to learn how to make the fight. You could say everything Democrats are doing is in bad faith. And if there's going to be a news story saying why you didn't show up for the last week of the year, you could say because everything they were doing was passing extremist laws in bad faith. Let me tell you all about them. Right. And that's an easy one. I mean, the Democrats are always going to attack Republicans, guys. Mm-hmm. And the fact that you have to respond to that is not going to be a problem because you just have to respond to one thing or the next thing. You always do. And these are easy ones. So, yeah, all these things are coming, and we still have at least a week and a half left to go, guys. So we're going to do all that we can to.
But there's some Democrats that haven't been showing up for votes too, though, right?
Occasionally.
Yeah.
And if they only lose one, then they're out of commission for the whole day.
Yeah.
In theory, unless there's a Republican.
And that's all it is, I believe. Unless there's a stupid Republican that crosses over. But
I saw some strange voting patterns the last time I was putting in some votes in the House where there were slightly more Democrats than usual voting no on things. I mean, we're talking like 3 or 4 Democrats instead of just one, if any. Not enough to make a big difference, but on some of these corporate welfare subsidy deals, that's where the Republicans are trying to cut deals, where you've got people like, I don't know, John Bumstead in the Senate, for example, who are cutting deals with Democrats to get some of their corporate welfare subsidies in, where they might lose votes from from 1 or 2 Democrats. So there's that going on.
So what have they actually passed in the last month?
In the last month? Oh, we have, unfortunately, Watchdog is not completely up to date, but we have seen I did get all the House bills up through a week ago, and so I'll try to get them. I'll try to get everything current in the next couple of days here. But so far, nothing awful that I've seen just yet. But it's all coming, guys. It's all coming, and you're going to see them shooting bills from the Senate to the House and getting them passed in both chambers like simultaneously. Like no hearing in the other chamber at all. They might not have a hearing in either chamber on some of these. They're not obligated to. And it's certainly in the House, every procedural vote is a voice vote, which means it's just the will of the chair, the will of the speaker. So there's absolutely no check whatsoever on any of these things. So it's coming, guys. It is coming. So we will get emails going out the window or out the door starting tomorrow morning. But I think the overarching pitch for all these things is Republicans, just don't show up. Just don't go. You have no business there. Other than maybe to stall for time, if every Republican was out there, making every single vote drag out for as long as they possibly could, that'd be helpful. But only to a limited extent, though, because guess what? Democrats are going to pick up on that, and they're going to start just gaveling people down. They're going to start, make them do it. Make them gag you, because they will. But I don't know. I certainly hope. When the Republicans take the majority back in the House, they punish the Democrats in the same way the Democrats attack them.
Yeah, don't hold your breath.
I know. I'm saying I'm not holding my breath. I don't believe I'll do anything like that. But they should. They should say all the incumbent Democrats get 0 committee assignments, period. Because they gave some Republicans 0 committee assignments and none of them said a thing about it. But they won't. They won't do that. Allian News says, Adam, what I'm saying is that you act like a Democrat concerned national popular vote will backfire when you send messages to Democrat. I don't understand this. Let's see. Let me try to parse this sentence here. I act like a Democrat. Concerned national popular vote will backfire when you send messages to Democratic reps. I don't follow.
I don't get it either.
Okay. Anyway, let's move on, guys. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Some new administration picks in the Trump administration. Let's do those. Shall we? When we last left off, the board's getting pretty big, getting pretty full. There have been some improvements since the last time. First off, this guy in the F tier, Chad Chronister, comes picked for DEA, the guy who is a left-wing lunatic. Why on earth Trump picked him, I don't know.
Susie Wiles.
He has withdrawn, huh? What's that, Patty?
He's Susie Wiles' guy is what I heard tonight on Barnes.
No kidding. Well, hopefully that leads to her marginalization, if not firing too. Chad Chronister is gone. Gonzo, one more off the F tier. Kapow. Not yet named a replacement, but that's an improvement. Also, this guy, William McGinley, we put him in the features because we don't really know all that much about him, but he was set to be White House counsel. He apparently is now going to be counsel for Doge, which is going to be some kind of quasi-legal entity that Elon is doing. I don't know. We'll see. But he is gone, at least from that role. And in his place comes David Warrington. Now, you might say, who is David Warrington? I'm glad you asked, guys. David Warrington. This is David Warrington. David Warrington is a partner at Dillon Law Group. That's Harmeet Dillon's organization. He is extremely expert in election law. I know this because he was Ron Paul 2012's lawyer. So I guess, I mean, it'd be a little bit of a stretch, but you might say this is the libertarian in the administration. But no, he has expertise in like everything here. Like his biography is like a who's who. Oh, U.S. Marine Corps also, of course. But here we go. He leads the Harmeet Dillon Law Group's political law practice, recognized as one of the leading Republican lawyers in the nation. General counsel for the Ron Paul 2012 campaign. led the fight for the delegate challenges on behalf of the 2012 campaign in Tampa, been called the lawyer to the Liberty Movement, served as counsel for the 2016 Trump campaign, to the Credentials, Platform, and Rules Committee at the 2016 RNC, defended Trump delegates in a federal lawsuit brought by individuals who sought to challenge the ability of the Republican Party to set rules for its delegate selection process, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And in fact, I believe he was actually, I don't think he still is, but I think when it first was incorporated, I think he was like the president of Ron Paul's Campaign for Liberty, which is an organization I've been working for a long time. Yeah, so Warrington, I have no hesitation whatsoever to put him in the S tier with Ron Paul right there. I got to actually kind of scroll up to get him up there. I'm not going to put him ahead of JD Vance and Vivek, but S tier, David Warrington. So great pick from Donald Trump there. Now, in other news, we also have something called the Czar of AI and Crypto. I don't know exactly what that is. It's a role that I guess Trump has made up, but David Sachs, whose name I have misspelled in the slide, it's actually S. I mean, you can barely really tell because it's so small, but it's spelled like sack, like a sack of something, SACKS. He is going to be Trump's crypto czar. And, I'm not sure that this role is going to be that critical, but this is someone who gets it. He's part of like Peter Thiel's group with some of these other guys, I think, and Elon Musk. He's an old PayPal guy. But here's him on the Duran, which is my favorite geopolitics channel. He was talking to Alex and Alex a couple months ago, several months ago now. But here, this is about when the Crocus terror bombings happened in Russia. Here we go. This is, of course.
You have this terrorist attack on Crocus. The Russians are pointing the finger at not just the Ukrainians, but the CIA and MI6 behind them. If those allegations can be proven, it's casus belli for World War III. So this whole thing just seems to be spiraling out of control. You already have European leaders explicitly calling for World War III, for inserting troops in Ukraine. So, I think the administration had this idea at the beginning that they could fine-tune this outcome, that they could turn up the heat on Russia, that they could weaken it, they could, crush its economy. And again, it was just this hubris that they could engineer the outcome they wanted in a fine-tuned way. And I think what we're seeing is the war is escalating, and it continues to escalate. And it's very dangerous. There's a lot more we can say about that. I think the second area that just feels out of control is Gaza. All
right. Well, he goes on for a long. I'm not going to play the whole interview, but you can, of course, watch it on your own time. There's the stream description: Biden White House failing on all fronts with David Sachs. Now, obviously, his role as AI/crypto czar is not in the foreign policy field, but the fact that he's someone that gets it is certainly a good indication that he's going to be able to be influential in the administration. And there's a lot of policy areas on AI and crypto that, and in particular crypto, because crypto does touch a lot on foreign policy, central banking. That's going to be, and he goes on, he talks about the Fed quite a lot there too. So I think anytime we have Trump picking people that get it to come to administration, that's a good sign. I'm thinking A tier for this guy only because I don't know how influential he actually will be. But he is, and by the way, he's also been on X. He's got lots and lots of interviews and statements and things. He is in the smart set for sure. I'm gonna put him up higher too. Actually, I'm gonna put him up there. There we go. David Sachs. I don't know. So before we move on, Pat, do you have any thoughts on them, or do you want to? The next guy I'm going to bring up is Peter Navarro.
Oh, Peter Navarro. No, I'm just wondering if Barron was involved in that at all. He's really big in the crypto stuff.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Definitely. Very good sign. Well, so next up is Peter Navarro, who I think has a right to the S tier, since unlike most Trump administration officials, he's actually been he has actually been put in prison for honoring his oath of loyalty to the president. Mm-hmm. He was subpoenaed by Congress, to which he invoked executive privilege, which is, when you invoke executive privilege, it's not just that I'm exercising my right not to talk to you. It's I have an obligation to honor the confidentiality that I have with the office of the president. I cannot talk to you. And for that, they put him in prison, political prisoner. And obviously his expertise is economics.
Manufacturing.
Yeah.
I think he's doing the same role he had last time.
Yeah. His title will be Senior Counsel for Trade and Manufacturing, which, was one of the things that Trump's administration did extremely well the first time. And now, of course, he also brings with him his battle scars. So I think no question about it, Peter Navarro is going to go in the S tier too. So this has been so far a really good week for the administration. We've got a few others, and I don't know how important some of these are. David Perdue, ambassador to China.
Yeah.
I'm certainly no expert on David Perdue, although I did find this story, what David Perdue has said about China as Trump makes him ambassador. And this is the story. Donald Trump has nominated Perdue, and Perdue has lived in Singapore and Hong Kong, has significant business experience in Asia. He has, according to Trump, a productive working relationship with China's leaders. And when he was running for re-election in the Senate, the Democrat Senatorial Campaign Committee attacked him for his record of outsourcing work to Asia and his history of establishing a relationship with the Chinese government. Indeed, during his 2014 campaign, when a reporter asked him who defended his outsourcing to China, he said he was proud of it. He said, this is a part of American business. Part of any business, outsourcing is the procurement of products and services to help your business run. Well, Perdue agreed that entire businesses have been industries have been decimated. He said it was because of bad government policies and not the reliance on outsourcing. So, I would say overall, and the big question is it going to be a hardcore China hawk who hates China, or is it someone that has done business there? And it looks like he's actually picked someone who knows a thing or two about China, which is, I would say, encouraging. That doesn't mean he's going to be pro-China.
Yeah.
But I think better than in some cases, like you see with, we'll go back to this, he's got people like Sebastian Gorka and Mike Waltz and Alex Wong who don't know anything about Russia, who have been put in charge of Russia policy. It's nice that he actually has someone that has, experience with dealing with China who understands it a little bit. So I think Purdue's a solid pick. We'll see, but I'm willing to put him in the.
Yeah, I think there was kind of throwing them a bone. He got Kelly Loeffler got something too. She got SBA.
Oh, she did.
Yeah,
I don't have her on my list this week. I'll have to make a note.
Yeah, it kind of flew under the radar, but
yeah.
So they were the two senators from Georgia, right, when everything went down, and
yeah,
I told everybody not to vote.
yeah, don't vote for these people because the election's a fraud anyway. So
yeah.
And right before we went on air, you told me another one that I didn't have on my list yet. Monica Crowley.
Yeah, State Department.
Yeah, she'll be working under Little Marco, so who knows how that's. And there's a few others. I don't have Tony Salisbury is a guy who's been named to be Deputy Homeland Security Advisor, but I don't know anything about him, and he's going to be a deputy to Kristi Noem, I guess. So, or maybe to what's his name, Stephen Miller. So I don't even know where to put people like that on the list.
Is this normal that they announced this early?
I think it's a little earlier than usual.
It's just giving them so much time to just trash every single person, right?
Well, the big story this week has been Hegseth. We'll talk about Hegseth in a minute.
Oh yeah, Megyn Kelly is killing it with that story. Oh my god, she's had 4 shows about it. She's so good. Yeah,
but real quick, let's get some of these other ones on the board here. I only got 2 left. Chad Vitello from ICE. Don't know much about him. Or Caleb Vitello. Here's his resume. I haven't done his Chad Vitello. No, Caleb Vitello. I got his name right. I'm sure he'll be fine. Whatever. Yeah, I think he's a pro-deportation guy. I don't know. I'll put him in the C here just because I don't know who he is. Rodney Scott for Customs and Border Patrol. He's a guy who was fired by the Biden administration for politely pushing back on the policy of the Biden regime not to call them illegal aliens, but to call them undocumented immigrants or undocumented workers or some kind of gibberish. So they fired him for that. And during that interim period, because he had been commissioner of CBP, they fired him. And then after that, for a time, he went to the Texas Public Policy Center, which is like Texas's equivalent of the Mackinac Center. So that's good. So I think he's going to probably be solid. I think I'm trying to put him at least in the B tier for now. Maybe ahead of Kushner, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
Speaking of the border, I don't want to reveal anything, but there might be a really good announcement coming of somebody that's going to be working for Holman. So we'll see.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder who you might be thinking about. I guess we'll wait and see.
Yeah.
So there we go, folks. All in all, a consistent improvement on the appointments board here. One of the F tiers got kicked, and a bunch of new ones named. All excellent picks. So very, very, very good all around there. Anyway, let's see here. Where were we? Oh yeah, so we're going to talk about Hegseth a bit more because that's been the big thing. Trump has dug in, doubled down. He's not giving up on Hegseth, which
he can't keep, because then they're just going to come after the next one, right?
Yeah. I think that's the main thing is if they knock out Hegseth, they're going to come after Tulsi. They're going to come after Bobby Kennedy. And I saw somewhere Trump said those are two that he absolutely will not tolerate there being any dissension from the Republicans on. He will go to war with them over RFK and Tulsi.
He'll go to war with them over the Democrats.
Yeah. Well, because he wants to broaden the party. And that's a big thing. And if the Republicans are going to be stupid about that.
It's just so crazy. Like, I'd love to see, I'm sure it's out there, but, a history of how Republicans always vote for the Democrat, but they don't in turn vote for our person. I mean, do we ever have any Republican nominees that get elected, or approved 90 out of 10?
Yeah. Well, one of the big stories this week was one of the people that emerged as someone that's going to be pushing back on Pete Hegseth was Joni Ernst, who's a senator from, I think,
she's done.
Nebraska, I think. And first, because she might herself want to be named as defense secretary. But then people on the internet started pointing out, you voted for all of Biden's appointees. You voted for Mayorkas. You voted for Merrick Garland. Same with Lindsey Graham. They vote for all these people. And I like to push back on Trump's picks, not the Democrats' picks, mind you, but Trump's picks.
Right.
So it's amazing. Now, I mean, I stand by where I put Pete Hegseth on the tier list because I honestly don't get why Trump would have picked him. But the problem is he's picked him now, so he's got to stick by him.
Where did we have him? B?
D.
Oh, you put him as a D?
Yeah, I think he's gonna be lousy. I mean, he brings nothing to the table. He spent his whole career up until a week ago saying as a war lobbyist, and now he says he is a recovering neocon. In this speech he gave, he has no experience. I mean, he's a mid-rank member of the military. That's all well and good, I guess. But I mean, did anybody think, Trump's going to pick Pete Hegseth? That's going to be an amazing pick for defense secretary. I mean, his main thing is they promise he's going to wokeify the military. Well, that's fine. That's nice. But a lot of people could do that. But other than that, I mean, and I should also say, okay, so the Democrats attacks him are totally unfair. I don't believe he raped a woman. They've cried that wolf before.
Yeah. Well, obviously there was no charges filed because there was nothing there.
Yeah.
I mean, they read the whole police report.
Yeah. But as character goes, I mean, okay, so it's highly disputable that he raped a woman, but it's not disputable that he slept around on his wives multiple times.
Right.
So if character does matter, there is that thing. And then also I forget who he told. Some senator he had a conversation with this week, and he says, I promise to stop drinking if I become the Secretary of Defense because I just won't have the time. Which is, I mean, that's kind of a weird thing to say. I promise I'll quit drinking. Christine says he engages in risky behavior. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me there would be better choices, but here we are with Hegseth, so I guess we'll see what happens.
We can't lose another one.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose for the sake of Bobby Kennedy and Tulsi Gabbard and the rest, we should hope that that Trump sticks up with and Christine says I'll stop drinking is the same as saying I can stop drinking anytime I want. Yeah. I mean, it's a weird flex to say I will stop drinking while I'm serving as Secretary of Defense, not like you probably should have stopped drinking before you got the nomination, because clearly he knew something was coming. He did that one interview that was basically his audition tape where he was showing off his tattoos on his sleeves. That one we saw that one time. I don't know, but anyway, I think the fact that there's things floating around about Tulsi Gabbard, the hundred intelligence experts that are criticizing her credentials and all
just
that.
Like the 51 that swore Hunter's laptop was Russian. Yeah.
But the majority of pressure on Trump right now is over Hegseth. And I'm glad it's there rather than on Bobby Kennedy.
Well, it's only there because they're picking him off, right?
Yeah.
If he caves, then it's going to be on to the next one. Yeah.
So let's hope it stops there. But anyway, in the meantime, all right, we're already more than a half hour into the show. Time to talk about the topic for tonight. It's been a bit of a week in the world. There's been a few coups, by my count, like at least 4, I think, in some degree of success. So I don't know where to start. I guess we should start with this comment from Trump, since obviously Trump is going to be the big question. Is what's Trump going to do? Which we really, just don't know. I mean, that's the thing that's so frustrating. So here's what Trump posted just today, actually. This is what Trump wrote on Truth Social. Assad is gone. He has fled his country. His protector, Russia, led by Vladimir Putin, was not interested in protecting him any longer. And I think that's broadly correct, because they really didn't do much for him. But then Trump goes on to say there was no reason for Russia to be there in the first place. I don't think that's true, but I think, and obviously, first off, we should point out, I don't think anybody was predicting what happened in Syria. This just complete collapse of the Assad government in the span of like 1 week was absolutely unforeseen. I think I certainly didn't hear anybody predict it. Did you? I haven't heard everyone say anything like this.
No, everything they've been saying about Assad was in relation with Tulsi, and wow, a week later.
Yeah. So the Duran was talking about this extensively, and their read on this basically was that Assad had really just screwed everything up in a lot of big ways, with relations with Turkey, and therefore also relations with Russia and with China, and that the regime had just been rotting from the inside. That he was not able to negotiate any kind of deals to get Syria out of the ground, and therefore the military just kind of fell apart from corruption and low morale. And then one of the big triggering incidents was probably the BRICS summit they just had recently in Russia, when Assad didn't show up because Erdogan, I guess he's the president of Turkey, I believe it is, really wanted to talk to him, and Assad didn't want to meet with him, which they hate each other, sure. But had Assad gone to meet with him there, they would have been in Kazan with the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians. They could have worked out something or other, and it didn't happen. And Turkey pretty much pulled the trigger on this, and they didn't even realize how good it was going to be. Like, they were like, okay, yeah, they'll their people, the ones that they were, buying all the weapons for, would probably take Aleppo. No one thought they were going to just march on Damascus, but then Syria just fell apart, and they're like, all right, let's do this thing anyway. So here's what Trump says: they lost all interest in Syria because of Ukraine. Again, doubtful. Where close to 600,000 Russian soldiers lay wounded or dead in a war that should never have started. It could go on forever. Now, this is where you
go on forever. I thought he was going to stop it. The first thing.
Yeah. The war that could go on forever. Well, not according to what you just said there, Trump. But you never know with Trump. Like, is he saying things he genuinely believes, or is he saying things for like a tactical purpose? And you really just don't know. Like, is this his way of acting tough with the Russians? And you just don't know. For the record, though, Russia has not had 600,000 casualties in Ukraine, not remotely close. This is actually the BBC's official count of it from something called Media Zona. And they actually, there's in collaboration with BBC News and a team of volunteers, maintain a list of deceased Russian military personnel. They count 82,000. And then more recently, they got a lot of complaints about how low the number was. So they started bringing in this estimate based on shady sources to say that it was a lot more, which is still a lot of casualties. No question about that. But that's still off by a pretty big factor from 600,000.
Yeah, I mean, isn't 600,000 more the Ukrainian number?
Yeah, I'll hear it. And further on, Trump will say, Ukraine has ridiculously, that's a strange adjective or adverb there, lost 400,000 soldiers. That's quite a bit closer to the real number. Although, of course, Ukraine bristled at that as well. And here's actually another weird thing he says in this sentence, and many more civilians. That's a weird thing to say. There have been some civilian casualties in the war, but it's not like Gaza. Like, there are some civilian casualties, but the overwhelming casualties are military casualties. But anyway, so yeah, there's a huge difference. Like, and did they think like Russia will be fooled by this? Like, they don't know how many of their own soldiers they've lost versus Ukrainians. Anyway, so he goes on. Russia, he says, has lost interest in Syria because of Ukraine. And there's some truth to this too. I mean, obviously, Russia has been preoccupied with the existential war in Ukraine, but that does not mean that they couldn't walk and chew bubblegum at the same time. I think they just really were seeing a bad investment in Syria. But anyway, he says they're in a weakened state, one because of Ukraine and a bad economy. Again, I don't know if him saying this is going to lead Russians to believe their economy is in bad shape, but okay. The other because of Israel and its fighting success. Likewise, Zelensky and Ukraine would like to make a deal and stop the madness. Have they? Zelensky pushed back on this today and said, no, we won't. We will not make a deal. Russia responds to this and says, yeah, we've always said we're willing to make a deal. And Ukraine is the ones that have stepped to say, actually, we passed a law saying we cannot make a deal. So anyway, Trump then says they have ridiculously lost 400,000 soldiers and many more civilians. There should be an immediate ceasefire negotiation should begin. Too many lives are being so needlessly wasted. Too many families destroyed. If it keeps going, it can turn to something much bigger and far worse. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is waiting. This is just a weird thing to say for so many reasons. First off, he hasn't talked to Russia at all. And I don't blame him for that either, by the way, because remember what happened the last time he talked to Russia before he took office. But I mean, it's just hard to believe that this is going to like somehow, like this is his way to start negotiating with Russia is by just trying to insult them. So, I mean, I guess we'll see. There was also a video today. Let me pull this up. This was Kellogg was asked about this. Some Russian guy, not a government official, but some Russian businessman makes some comment about how we're not going to negotiate on critical issues with Zelensky. And so then Kellogg comes out on, this is, I think, on Fox News and answers this random Russian business guy. This, you'll see their subtitles in Russian because obviously Russia was watching this because they're curious what this envoy to Russia says. Here's what General Kellogg says. Here we go.
Says Kellogg comes to Moscow with his plan. We take it and then tell him to screw himself because we don't like any of it. That'd be the whole negotiation. For the talks to be constructive, we need to talk not about the future of Ukraine, but the future of Europe and the world. Real quick, final thought. Or final reaction, I should say.
Yeah, my reaction to that, he better understand who Donald J. Trump is, because it's a big mistake to underestimate Donald J. Trump. The world has done that before, and it's made a massive mistake. This is not Keith Kellogg. We're talking about the United States of America and President Trump, and he will handle it like he's always handled it. And I would just, my comment to him is, better get back in your box and better understand President Trump, because clearly you don't, and you clearly do not understand the United States of America.
Got it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't even know what that was supposed to be.
Did you see what it just said? Former national security to Pence? Advisor to Mike Pence?
Yeah, that's Kellogg's background, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's just Russia needs to understand that it's Trump they're dealing with, you know. And Trump can just conjure He can just conjure money and weapons out of thin air, guys. He's gonna do things that the Biden administration just couldn't do. He's gonna somehow be tougher on Russia. So I don't get it, but we'll see. We'll see if these things go anywhere. Yeah. Now in actual things going on, have you noticed you don't hear anything at all coming from Ukraine about F-16s anymore? Or it's been over a week now since there's been no big American attacks on Russia, no ATACMS missiles, no. It's just been quiet for some reason, like nothing the Biden administration's done to provoke Russia's worked. So, but anyway, elsewhere in the world has been a week of coups. I mean, has there been 4 weeks or four coups in a row in 1 week? I don't think so. So we have. So let's go through them. So first, there's Romania, where this according to the media, extreme right, far right wing guy came out of nowhere to get.
Oh yeah, I already forgot about that one. That was like 3 days ago.
Yeah, it's like 3 days ago. This guy comes out and gets 63% in the election to 37% from what the media calls the moderate right, the center right, pro-Western person. Mm-hmm. And so the Supreme Court of Romania just says, "Oh, okay, this was an illegal election that Russia clearly ran interference in, and we have classified intelligence documents. We'll declassify them. Actually, Russia used TikTok to influence the election, and therefore the election was illegitimate," which is kind of crazy in a few ways. Like, first off,
that's like 2016 would have worked if their strategy in 2016 would have worked against Trump.
Yeah. We're just going to cancel the election results, guys, because there's foreign interference. Now, the foreign interference is, first of all, retardedly unbelievable. Like, okay, you want us to believe that Russia spent, a little bit of money on TikTok. Apparently, so the claim is, this is according to the Supreme Court of Romania, 25,000 TikTok accounts coordinated through a Telegram channel. And that's what got them to 63% of the vote. 63%. Like, for those who don't know, that's an absolute blowout. 63% to 30. That's almost 2-1. That is an absolutely crushing victory. And they're like, "Oh, this guy is just some random guy that came out of nowhere." It's like, actually, this guy's been like involved in the Ukrainian government as a diplomat for like the last 20 plus years or something. And all these documents that this Romanian court are citing have no evidence, no proof, no concrete evidence of any foreign state involvement or manipulation at all. Like, that's it. So, yeah, it's just wild. Like, when you strip it all away, basically, the court just invalidated the entire presidential election because they claim there was a coordinated social media campaign on TikTok, and that they just claim without evidence resembles Russian tactics. So we'll see how this goes. As of right now, they've said they're just going to postpone the election for 3 more months and have like a redo. So we'll see what happens there. So that was Romania. Now, the next thing was in South Korea, where the president of South Korea just declared an emergency and says, "I'm suspending the parliament and just declaring martial law." And so then the parliament unanimously says, "No, you don't. We're not suspending the Constitution." Which you would think, well, he just suspended them, so they don't have a right to take a vote on that, I guess. But they apparently do. They apparently did. It has not gone well for Korea. And this guy, this president of South Korea, apparently he's very, very pro-American. And America's been kind of like leaning pretty hard on South Korea right now because there's been this whole ridiculous, retarded gibberish about North Korean troops are fighting in Ukraine. It's no evidence of this at all. No North Korean prisoners of war, no actual North Koreans found anywhere. There's been some AI pictures and crap like that. But so America is now telling South Korea, we need weapons from you, because South Korea does have a military industry that we don't have. We really need. And they also want them to form an alliance with Japan to start going after Russia and China, which South Korea and Japan are not friends. They had the Imperial Japan was like horribly brutal to South Korea. They don't really like each other. So anyway, so the U.S. has been putting all this pressure on South Korea. So this guy just declares it's going to be a state of emergency. He's gonna declare martial law in South Korea, and yeah, now that's not happened. So apparently they failed to get 200 votes to impeach the president, but they did arrest the defense secretary. So we'll see how that goes. So there's a coup in South Korea this week, which apparently has not succeeded. And then there was an ongoing coup in Georgia too, where the Georgia Dream Party won the election. It's actually a couple of weeks ago now, but they are still to this day demonstrating and trying to do another, like a Maidan style coup like Ukraine had. They've been just trying to overthrow the government for the past few weeks. And the Georgia government's like absolutely not having it. So the Georgia president, who's from the opposition party, that her term officially ends December 15th. She refuses to leave. She refused to accept the results of the election. And she's been telling them to keep fighting, keep fighting, keep fighting. They've been on the streets of the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi, for like the last several days. The Georgia Dream Party says, no, we're not gonna bend to this at all. We are absolutely not going to allow this to take place. And so we'll see where this goes. There's another week of this before the president's got to step down or something's going to happen. So we'll see. But then, of course, the big one this week was Syria, which is just, yeah, it's pretty insane, folks. I have to believe this is all going on right now because of the Trump election. And it's like the world's feeling like time's running out to get some crazy shit done. But
could be. Just like the Democrats in Lansing.
Yeah, their days are numbered. And but in Syria, I mean, there's no question. This has been a huge setback for Russia and a big win for the US State Department. And a big win for Turkey. And a big loss for Iran. So so we'll see. But the thing that I think people need to realize is that this is also a terrible thing for Christians in Syria, because these are Al-Qaeda terrorists that just took over. To see the media cover this, I mean, you guys, to actually believe the crap that the media is putting on, I don't know how anybody could trust a mass media that lies about everything else under the sun. And this is how they report on these jihadi terrorists. How Syria's diversity-friendly jihadists plan on building a state. Oh, yeah. The diversity-friendly jihadists, ladies and gentlemen. Sure, these guys are going to be great for Syria. And then here's CNN. Here's CNN. How Syria's rebel leader went from radical jihadist to blazer-wearing revolutionary. Isn't that great? Look at this guy. He's taken off his turban. He's put on his he looks like Zelensky. He even looks like Zelensky by his face. And yeah, how can you says because the mass media hates Christians as well? Yeah. Yeah, this is a kinder, gentler jihadist, guys. They don't just they don't chop people's heads off anymore. They just put a bullet in them. That's all. They're much more moderate. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can't remember the last time that this U.S. State Department overthrew a stable Arab government and it led to peace and stability and not to bloodshed and barbarity and carnage and chaos.
Yeah, it doesn't usually go well.
No, I don't think so. But the language, the language should just, that's how you know that we're supporting the wrong guys. Syrian rebel leaders victory. Syrian rebel leaders. Syrian rebels. That's what they are, guys. They're rebels. Like in Star Wars. They're rebels. They're not jihadists. Stop calling them jihadists, even though they're directly connected to Al-Qaeda. Directly connected. Like this guy. Let's see what the story says about him, shall we? He's an Islamist militant who moved back to Syria from Iraq in 2011 with $6 million monthly stipend from Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who's going to become the world's most wanted terrorist. His mission was to
killed?
Al-Qaeda's, huh?
The guy we assassinated?
Yeah.
Okay.
His mission was to establish Al-Qaeda's Syrian affiliate, Jabhat al-Nusra. Well, now they have a new name for this. Yeah, it went from Al-Qaeda to ISIS-K to now it's Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. It's the same thing. It's rent a jihadi. It's rent a jihadi. And he says so. The rebel South won in Syria. Yeah, well, and I mean, look, I'm not rooting for Assad or anything like that. But I mean, it reminds me of what happened in Libya when, as Hillary Clinton put it, talking about Gaddafi. We came, he saw, he died, and and then just chaos and carnage and slaughter happened throughout Libya, and it went from being a secular state to being a radical Islamic state. These are our friends, guys. These are, I mean, if you think about it in the context of spreading freedom and democracy, none of this makes any sense at all. If you think about it in the context of destabilizing the whole rest of the world to prevent anybody from ever competing with us, then it makes perfect sense. This is the same thing that they do in Asia, destabilizing those regimes in the Caucasus. It's all geopolitics. It's all we don't want to have to be. We don't want to be threatened by China and Russia, so we'll just destabilize everything around them. Al Ganu says this is left rebranding again. They just changed their name and hope you don't remember. Yeah, I mean, it's exactly right. Because people might kind of remember. This is Al Qaeda. We are. The media is now trying to tell you that Al Qaeda are the good guys. That's how crazy this is. And that's where we are now. Here is Donald Trump's take on this whole thing. Let me zoom in a bit here. Opposition fighters in Syria. That's an interesting name for them. Opposition fighters in Syria, in an unprecedented move, have totally taken, this is right before the fall of Damascus, have totally taken over numerous cities in a highly coordinated offensive and are now on the outskirts of Damascus, obviously preparing to make a very big move towards taking out Assad. Russia, because they are so tough in Ukraine and with the loss of their over 600,000, he says this lie again, seems incapable of stopping this literal march through Syria. Probably not true. I mean, Russia has actually always said we don't go where we're not invited. And apparently Assad, at first they said Assad was killed fleeing in a plane crash or something. Then they claimed, the reports of the media are now saying Assad is in Russia. Russia has apparently said that he is there with asylum, which is, that's always the first thing that happens when there's a coup, is the leader is out of there. There's like some fake photos that were supposedly of Assad in Russia, but they're actually from 10 years ago. But he's probably in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think at some point, I mean, there was talk a week ago about the cavalry coming. Russia's going to come. Hezbollah's going to come. Iran's going to come. None of it ever happened. I think they all just said, nah. Because at the end of the day, Al Ganu says, I also don't like Syrian president. He is a hole, but most everything in the Middle East is. Never know who your friend is this week. Yeah, the guys in the Duran quoted someone saying, like, trying to build a stable relationship with the Middle East is like trying to build a castle on a foundation of sand. Yeah, it's and Russia has spent like decades trying to build relationships with these Middle East countries, and it never lasts. So I think they're probably just like, this isn't even worth it anymore. Betty Nelson says, tuned in late. Just want to say I did a dive with an influencer a few years ago. Things are not what you see. He was finally able to flee with his family. He was more afraid of Russia and insurgents. They were allowed 3 hours of electricity. Yeah, and there again, too, folks. If Assad had made some kind of deal with Erdogan, they could have gotten electricity back on. I mean, that's how bad it was in Syria. It was, and part of that was our sanctions, but that wasn't all. That wasn't all there was to it. And yeah. Betty says, I found it was very complicated. It is very complicated. And yet this whole thing is just falling apart. Anyway, so let's go on to what Trump says. This is where former President Obama refused to honor his commitments, protecting the red line in the sand, and all hell broke out with Russia stepping in. but now they are like possibly Assad himself being forced out, and it may be the best thing that can happen to them. I doubt it. I doubt it. We shall see. I don't think radical Islamic terrorists taking over your country is going to be good for you, but I guess we'll find out. There's never much of a benefit in Syria for Russia other than to make Obama look really stupid. Well, then why are we there? In any event, Syria is a mess, but is not our friend, and the United States should have nothing to do with it. This is not our fight. Let it play out. Do not get involved. Well, I appreciate that sentiment. You know, the whole non-interventionist foreign policy. That's all very good. Of course, the background of this was that Trump ordered his troops to get out of Syria when he was president, and his administration literally went behind his back and betrayed him and refused to implement his own policy.
Yeah. Ugh.
So, yeah, we shall see. We were involved in this. Where do you think these guys' weapons came from, and their money came from us and from Turkey? So, yeah, we shall see. We'll see what happens. But yeah, a fine mess the world's going to be walking into, and what will happen between now and January 20th, all I can say is it can't come fast enough. Oh, I got one more thing I wanted to show you guys. And we were talking about this last week, and I couldn't find the clip. This is what it's really all about. Here's Lindsey Graham.
Ukraine is still standing. This war is about money. People don't talk much about it. But you know the richest country in all of Europe for rare earth minerals is Ukraine. $2 to $7 trillion worth of minerals that are rare earth minerals, very relevant to the 21st century. Ukraine's ready to do a deal with us, not the Russians. So it's in our interest to make sure that Russia doesn't take over the place. It's the breadbasket of really the developing world. 50% of all the food going to Africa comes out of Ukraine. We can make money and have an economic relationship with Ukraine that'd be very beneficial to us with peace. So Donald Trump's going to do a deal to get our money back, to enrich ourselves with rare earth minerals, a good deal for Ukraine and us, and he's going to bring peace. And Biden's been a disaster when it comes to containing bad guys.
Yeah, so
we're going to enrich ourselves with Ukrainian minerals?
Yeah, we're going to take the minerals.
Take them? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean that's it right there. We had a puppet government in Ukraine that we installed, which was Zelensky, a puppet dictator, which we kept him in line with crack cocaine, and now 500,000 Ukrainians are dead, and yeah, and we're gonna somehow turn the tide of war and then expel the Russians and then rob Ukraine of their natural resources. That's great. Lindsey Graham just eloquently articulated.
Yeah, I wonder why nobody likes us.
Yeah, Buddy Nelson says the Syrian people support Assad. That's what I found crazy. Yeah, because people support.
Okay, the Iraqis supported.
Yeah, people tend to support the leader in their own country over the foreigner who's not there. I mean, that's the thing. Like we just read about this article here. This guy, this terrorist guy. Let me put this back up again. No, not this guy. Hold on, that wasn't it. This one. Yeah, he's from Saudi Arabia, raised in Damascus. Then he went to Iraq, going back and forth. Yeah, these guys are terrorists for hire. They're not Syrian people, and they're in service to foreign interests. So, I mean, say what you want about Assad. At least he is Syrian. He's actually, he's educated in Europe and all that, but he's from Syria. And he was in Syria for 20 plus years. I think he took power. Well, his father was in power before he was, but he took power in 2000. So he's there for 24 plus years. So they know the guy. I mean, that's different between overthrowing him, a whole regime and bringing in some random jihadi terrorists. I guess we'll figure out who our next leader will be. Hope he's a good one. Yeah, of course they're not happy about that. So yeah.
I mean, will there even be a Syria? You got to wonder. Turkey's going to take it over. Who knows?
Yeah. So Turkey. I mean, they are looking at. I mean, Erdogan wants to rebuild the Ottoman Empire. I would.
Constantly coming after Greece.
I was going to say I'd be nervous if I was Greek
Mhm.
or from Cyprus, because the guy's got plans. Alganu says Syrian war started over him not approving the pipeline. Yeah, that's what it's about. Natural resources. And yeah, so that's how that goes. So it has been a pretty dang crazy week in geopolitics. Whether or not Trump will get these things under control remains to be seen. I have to say, I'm not particularly.
Little Marco's going to fix it all.
Oh yeah, little yeah. Marco Rubio, guys. Marco Rubio knows what to do. And Monica Crowley.
She's probably better than him, but anyway.
That's not saying much. Alga News, that's just mean. I'm not going to put that on the screen.
I can still see it. That's not,
okay. Okay.
No one wants Greek tourist trap with no major exports. Okay. Well, I'm a major export, so go fuck yourself.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, I hope there is a sorting out of things once Trump gets into office and he starts listening to people like Tulsi and not listening to people like General Kellogg, Mike Waltz, and Little Marco, because this whole we're gonna talk tough and that's gonna whip these people into shape. We'll see. I doubt it. All right, guys, let's not end on an argument about on an argument about nothing. I see you guys in the chat there. On Rumble, Bonzi88 says Jolani went from jihadist to liberator. Yeah, oh yeah, he's a regular Che Guevara. Regular Che Guevara. We'll see. All right, guys. I think that will do it for us for tonight. This week, stay tuned. In the inboxes, there will be a lot of petitions going to Lansing this week. It is important to send in those petitions, guys. I'm always bad about, speaking of that, hit that like button. I always forget to even say it. To have that little crutch at the end of the closing screen that comes up. But, these petitions to lawmakers, they actually do count them. They actually do pay attention to things that people are saying. And you'd be amazed how few people actually do send in letters to their lawmakers. And when they get a lot of them, it suddenly surprises them. So it is very important to send in those petitions because it does make a difference. The Democrats are actually paying, obviously they're trying to get done as much radical, crazy stuff as they can before they lose their majority. But they don't want to lose even more ground in the next election. By the way, Mark Ashley Price, since he had some stuff earlier, and I wanted to read a couple of his because I missed him earlier. Another reason I'm so glad Trump be president again, and he's my favorite president. He is a great world leader. He's a real man, unlike the stupid people from the Democratic Party. Well, I hope so, Mark. I hope so. We shall see. Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris are evil people. Trump at least means well, but I certainly hope that he figures out who the wise people are in his incoming cabinet. All right, folks. I think that will do it for us for tonight. Patty, you got any events or things you want to promote coming up?
No, it's Lame Duck.
Yeah, Lame Duck. Good. That's nice.
Convention, guys. If you haven't heard, I have to send an email out too, but I'm finishing up some other stuff. January 30th, county convention.
Seems early. Wonder why they're doing that.
They moved it up a week.
Great.
There was issues with Cobo Hall. So county conventions, January 30th, state convention, February 21st and 22nd. So
cool. Awesome.
21st is when we elect our new district leaders, and then state chair on the 22nd.
We'll see. Have any more announced candidates yet besides Jim Runstead?
Well, I know one more at least, but I don't know if it's formal, so I don't know if I should say it. But
well, if you know it's going to be announced, then you might as well. But if not, then you can hold off.
I'll just wait. I'd rather just wait.
Okay. Well, we shall see. We shall see how that race shapes up. All right, guys. I think that will do it for us for tonight. Thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week, and please do send in those petitions when they come because there's going to be a lot of them coming this week. So,
right.
All right, guys. Thanks as always for all you do for liberty. Till next time. Peace.
Later.